Jeff, what an honor. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Yep, everything's good.
Amazing story.
Thank you.
Amazing story behind you. I had an amazing opportunity exactly to meet you, and time flies. I mean, I was trying get a little chance for this chat for past year and a half maybe even, because that's where I exactly met you first time. That was,
right.
I believe the end of 2023.
Right.
Right before this big January of 2024.
Yes. Yeah. Hit the $1 million mark. Pretty amazing. So it's
Barret-Jackson.
Barret-Jackson.
That's the auction with who you were working for quite a while.
Right.
Yes?
Yeah, I've been with Barret-Jackson since 2009.
Okay.
First car I sold there was 2009. It's been a slow climb, but really about the last 5-6 years have been just off the charts good. So they've worked with me. They've helped what in the business world they say build a brand. So I believe we've finally kind of gotten into that arena. So I've always said, and I absolutely mean it, is build the best car you can possibly build. Take it to Barret-Jackson. It's the best venue, best avenue, and it's worked out really well for me and them, and really everybody involved.
It's again, how do you remember? I mentioned I'm from Poland. We're not really familiar with anything here. I mean, definitely we're getting more year after year.
Sure.
And that's what I'm kind of trying to approach. I'm trying to share the knowledge, story behind the culture of hot rods, American classic cars, mostly with Europeans, mostly with Polish guys, German, of course, too. I'm right by there.
Sure.
Sharing also here, because as time flies, I'm not sure the next generation exactly will catch the bite of hot rod culture and follow.
I agree.
Especially in some areas of United States. I'm not sure it will be everywhere. I've seen this more, of course, in California, maybe up north, New York, Minnesota. Here, Florida, we have pretty strong too.
Yes.
But Barret-Jackson, I wasn't familiar with that. I wasn't familiar with the name, and as I spend more time here in the United States, then I start following what's going on there, what kind of auction, what kind of cars, and it's again you following your passion. That was always your passion. You mentioned your cars.
Yep.
How they started everything exactly?
The way it really started for me when I was young, growing up in the Midwest, I lived kind of in the mecca of racing and cars and hot rodding. I live 40 miles. My shop's 40 miles from Indy Motor Speedway.
Okay.
So therefore, we have in my little town, Bloomington, Indiana, Steve Kinser. He's what they call the king of the outlaw sprint car racing, so on. He was someone that was 10 years older than me that I looked up to, thought, this guy's making it in the car world. It's amazing. He didn't do, those guys were all racing, but that give me a kind of a venue to lots of shops and lots of availability to technology and so on. Worked as a young guy in a body shop, young. I was 14 when I went to work there. Yeah.
So you started early.
Yeah, I started really early, and I was just always a working class guy, so I didn't have any money. So really, how the first big project started for me was I was on a UPS man's budget, making probably at the time $40-50 grand a year. And the only way I could have a cool hot rod was to build it. So, my history, my past, my people I'd run around with, is like, I think I can do this. So that's really how it started for me was, okay, I think I can get myself through this and at least learn along the way. So the first high-end build I did was a 55 Chevy truck, and it was in 2001, actually. And so I built it. Took it to the Super Chevy show, was at Raceway Park where the U.S. Nationals are in Indy. It made the cover of 2 magazines, a lot of photo shoots, a lot of exposure. Took it to a Good Guys show at the same venue. Made the cover of the Good Guys Gazette and so on. It was, really a real good response to it. Had lots of people ask me if I'd be interested in selling it. Didn't really build it to sell. Didn't have any intentions of selling. But like anything in life, you get asked that enough times, it makes you start thinking. Had a bad week at UPS, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to put a big price on this thing. What I felt like was a huge price, which was about double what I had in it. And I thought, I'm going to try to sell this thing for this. Priced it to two guys. They bought it, no problem. It actually went to London at the time.
Wow.
And so that planted a seed kind of in my head that, I think there's opportunity here. So did a couple of hot rods, did a 37 Ford, and made good money on that. Built a 41 Willys Roadster, which was a fiberglass body.
You were cruising in the 30s and 40s as well.
Right, yeah. Did that car, put a big 502 motor in it. It was just crazy over the top, fast, and a lot of power. Took it to my path at first was to build a car, take it to shows, get some press, magazines, and so on, and then put a price on it, sell it. That worked out really, really well until 2008. In that when the financial crunch came, and then all of a sudden, you could have the nicest car and the best price, and still didn't really go anywhere with it. I was at a Good Guys show in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I had a 59 Corvette Convertible sitting there, RESTOMOD. It had an LS motor. It was really a nice car. Had a little for sale sign in the corner of the window, and this guy walks up and he says, "I see you're trying to sell your car." And I said, "Yeah." I said, I'd like to go on to another project. He said, "Have you ever sold a car at Barret-Jackson or been to the auction at Barret-Jackson in Scottsdale?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You should try that." And he said, "Can I ask why you've never tried it?" And I said, "Honestly," I said, "I'm a working class guy. I could not go there with no reserve. I can't take that no reserve chance." I said, I could lose my shirt, and I can't do that in my life. And he said, so he walked around the car and looked at it for probably another 5 minutes, and he came to me before he walked off, and he said, "I want to tell you that," he said, "the kind of quality that you have, you would do well at Barret-Jackson." He said, that shouldn't be a concern of yours." And he turned around and walked off. Still yet today, have no idea who that guy was.
Wow.
He didn't want anything for his advice. I don't know who he was. But that planted a seed in my head. So in April of 2009, the first Barret-Jackson I went to was in West Palm, here in Florida.
Okay.
And so I go to that auction. Times are bad. I mean, people are, selling, their houses are getting foreclosed, and really bad economy. So I thought, well, if I could get $120,000 for this car, I would be okay. I'd make a little bit of money, everything would be fine. But I was scared to death because it could have brought $50,000, and the car brought $135,000. So it brought $15,000 more than what I wanted, 10% more, and I'm like, okay, this worked out good.
Yes.
So I went back home, wanted to do a mid-year Corvette, so I bought a 66 convertible Corvette and got it completed by the fall and got it ready for the 2009 or 2010 Scottsdale. It was the first time I went to Scottsdale, was 2010. And so I got the car all marketed through them, got everything submitted to them, was absolutely mortified, scared to death because the economy had gotten worse and not better. And so I go out to Scottsdale, don't know anything, never been out there, don't know anybody. And I just go out there and represent, kept my car perfect, talked with people, tried to educate people about the car and what it had and what it, was about. Restomodding was very, very new then. I mean, we're 15 years from there down the road now. And so I was trying to basically educate people, being greedy. You got 135 for the last car. I really like to get 150 for this one. Just to a number in my head.
Yeah.
Raise the bar a little bit, but not get greedy. And that's, once again, no reserve auction, so who knows what's going to happen.
There's always the risk.
Yeah, a lot of risk, a lot of gamble, a lot of stress, but the car sold for $180,000.
Wow.
And it was really what I would consider to be maybe the beginning of my career with Barret-Jackson, simply because it was one of those things where, you want 150, you're in terrible times, you get 180. I remember at the time I would rent a house, a VRBO house, when I went out there. Rented this house. You go to the store, to go to Walmart and stock up groceries and so on. And there were people in the front of those stores with card tables, and they were handing out foreclosure papers to sell condominiums and homes and whatever. And I remember you could buy, I went and looked at a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo that I could have bought for $80,000, and 2 years before that they had been selling for $300,000. And so I was mortified. I was scared to death. The car sold for $180,000, and there were 5 guys at that auction that said, "I'm buying this car." The other 4 guys that did not get the car bought came to me and gave me a deposit to build a car.
Wow.
So it was like in 2010, almost
spectacular.
Yeah, instant.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Another big step for you.
Yeah, it was a big pinnacle, I would say, as far as the ability to just say, okay, this is
something is happening there. I'm starting some journey.
I'm starting a journey here. I was still at UPS. Still had several years
really?
at UPS. Oh yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I was working 50 hours a week as a UPS guy. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's interesting. So you were still working your full-time job,
right?
All those hours, and still building cars, which takes you to the next level with your passion.
Right.
And,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked. I started at UPS in '86, and worked there, and finally was probably, I would say, about the last 8 years that I worked at UPS. I was doing better with the cars.
Yes.
Than UPS, but I got a pension. Once I retired, I got insurance.
Nice.
I couldn't give it up.
Yeah.
So I was literally working at least 50 hours at UPS, probably at least 30 on the side doing the car stuff. So
that's the story. What kind of skill for you to manage your time this way that you building cars which are approaching next level of the craftsmanship and just quality and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, honestly, it was just kind of one of those things for me that I just was very thankful and maybe a little overwhelmed by the opportunity. It was like, okay, I've worked for the other guy my whole life. I have this opportunity to do something for me, which was the car thing. And I never, still yet today, the money really has never been a big part of this for me. I mean, I want to build the best car I can. I want to keep the quality as great as I can. Met some super interesting people and got to travel and do some amazing things through the car thing. Never once ever did I wake up and say, I got to do this. I'm going to make a lot of money at this. It had nothing to do with it. And
that's what I hear then, what I'm learning. I mean, I'm kind of entrepreneurial style guy too. Coming back from Poland, travel a lot of in Europe, visited a few countries, worked some summer jobs during of my college, then coming to United States, which was always my dream come true.
Sure.
To learn.
Yeah. Absolutely.
To learn as much as I could about any type of businesses. I mean, the United States is top country in the world.
Yes.
To experience the life, culture, and everything else, and then moving, of course, for cars. But it's again, while I'm learning, also like talking with the people, own businesses or just entrepreneurs, that you just pursuing what you love.
Right.
With everything what you got. And then everything like money-wise will come along.
Right.
But just focus on this, what really giving you happiness and who you really are, and just put it out to people.
Absolutely.
And that's what you did.
Yeah, that's 100% what I did. And like I said, surprisingly, maybe it's a little bit ignorant at this point in my life to focus on that, but it was, I built this first truck because that was the only way I was going to have one. I wanted one so bad I'd go to these shows, and I was like, oh my gosh, this work is amazing, and these are beautiful, and how much fun would it be to have that? So that got me through the first one, and then obviously I did some things right to the point where people were really chasing and wanting to buy it and so on, and I thought, I could probably do it again.
Yeah.
Amazingly now I have done 93 Corvettes.
Wow.
93.
That's quite a number.
Yeah.
That's quite a number.
So it's been but like I said, that big auction at Scottsdale in 2010 was a huge thing. And it just kind of lined it up for me to the point. And there's been a lot of things along the way that were changes that, you're just not sure what to do. So you trust your gut. And I've always been kind of a moral compass type guy. It's like, do what's right, treat the people right, do what you're comfortable with. Don't ever try to lay down at night and go to sleep and think, I did this person wrong. You don't want that burden. It just isn't worth it. It's never seen it pay off for anybody. But that had a lot to do with it, the quality of work, and honestly, I have probably done things along the way that not many people would do. At first, I didn't have a facility. I mean, I would jack cars up in the driveway and a gravel driveway, and bed line them, work on them, do whatever. It was just what it was going to take for me to get there. It seems now, looking back, it seems like. But I just think that when you're passionate about something and you want it bad enough, you're not going to get any other way.
I mean, we all starting somewhere.
Yeah,
we
right.
all starting. Yeah, that's how this story builds.
Yeah, you work your way through those things, and then, like I said, after that 2010 and doing the customer builds, another interesting thing happened along the path was I had my first vehicle was that 55 Chevy truck. Well, I built myself another 55 Chevy truck, and it was kind of a understated, I guess I would call it, build. It still had the original frame and chassis underneath it. I had done chassis and suspension upgrades to it. So it set low, had an LS motor in it. It was a nice truck. The body work and paint work was perfect on it. In the fall or in January of 2011, I did not have another Corvette to bring to Scottsdale because of doing those customer builds that year. So I decided, well, I'm going to take this truck and sell it. I really didn't want to sell it. I was pretty attached to it, but it was kind of one of those things at the time that I thought, I have opened this opportunity up with Barret-Jackson, and I want to keep that going. I want to continue. I want to be on their good side. I want to, keep things rolling. So I took this truck out there, at the time, didn't really have a ton of money in it, but and trucks weren't that hot at the time. The Corvette RESTOMODs were the thing. So I took this truck out there thinking, well, okay, if I can get $60,000-$70,000 for this truck, I'm going to consider myself pretty fortunate. I'll make a little bit of money at that. Drove the truck up on stage. It was on another thing is it was on a Thursday evening. I had been used to Saturday prime time. Both of my cars previous to that had been prime time Saturday and real good parking spots and opportunities and so on. Pull this truck up out there, and they give me a Thursday evening time slot, and I'm parked at some tent, which seemed like it was out at the mailbox. I mean, it was so far from the stage and so far removed from this. And so I pull this truck up there, and I'm thinking, if this gets 60 or 70, I'm going to count my blessings here. Pull it up on stage, and before I even got out of the truck...
It's again, no reserve.
No reserve.
Yeah.
pull the truck up on stage. Before I get out of the truck, it's $100,000.
Wow.
And I'm just absolutely just dumbfounded. You know, probably the one or two times in my life that I thought I was actually going to pass out, that was that day. And I'm standing there next to it, it's sold for $143,000.
Oh,
yeah,
double what you were expecting.
Yeah, $143,000. A guy from Canada bought it. Just overwhelming, you know. And like I said, just kind of wanted to. I along the way, you know, obviously the quality had a lot to do with it, but it was amazing to me that trucks just. I mean, that was probably a record at the time for a '55 Chevy pickup truck in 2011. But I've had a lot of really good opportunities like that.
I mean, so I see here already that your name is spreading worldwide. It's not just United States. The first one is going to UK. Another one is going to Canada. So people are picking up your name.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's there was also at one time customer-wise, I had a guy contact me from South Africa, and I ended up building him 2 cars.
Wow.
So I had 2 cars go to South Africa.
Interesting.
Actually, let's see, it would have been about 2001 or 2021 or 2022. I built a silvery blue '67 convertible, and a guy bought it from Amsterdam.
Okay.
So the car went to Amsterdam, and it was also one of my path kind of from 2010. It was somewhat very slow and steady gains as far as what the car sold for, and then in 2018 I had built several cars, a lot of C1 Corvettes with Art Morrison chassis, and Art Morrison is kind of, in my opinion, the brand name chassis that a person wants to use. They're out in the state of Washington, but they have an engineering staff, and they're just absolutely, in my opinion, probably the best chassis out there. So they had a C1 chassis but did not have a C2 chassis, and C2s are what I preferred to build, what I'd had good success for and liked personally. So I called Art Morrison at the time and talked to Art himself, and was pretty instrumental in working with them. I asked them, hey, you guys need to be building a C2 chassis. They said, we have that on our docket. We want to be doing that, but we don't have the car. We don't have the measurements. We don't have all the stuff that it takes to do it. And I said, well, what if I become involved in that and help you along the way? So that took about a year, but in 2018, at the end of 18, I had built a 63 split window on an Art Morrison chassis. Was the first one that was out there at all. Took it to Scottsdale. You know, the Corvettes back then were bringing, RESTOMODs were bringing maybe 250 for a really nice one. But in 2019, took that car to Scottsdale, and it did 350.
Wow.
And so I had a kind of a slow Escalade, you know, up at the time. Worked out really, really well. And then 2021 took a coupe and a convertible. And Craig Jackson, the owner of Barret-Jackson, told me at the time, he said, I bet the 67 convertible will do more than the split window. And my comment to him at the time was, well, if it does, I've been building the wrong car all along, because I'd done a lot of split windows, and they were much more expensive to buy and to build and so on.
Yes, one of my favorite, I will tell you. One of my favorite. Exactly.
For sure. So built a 67 convertible and a 63 coupe, took them in 21, and the split window did 350 again, and the convertible did 385.
Wow.
67 convertible. So at that point, I kind of decided that I probably need to do something completely different, because I would go to Barret-Jackson it had gotten the attention of a lot of other guys that, you know, this guy from the Midwest is taking these Corvettes out there and making a lot of money doing it. So you would show up out there at Scottsdale and there would be, you know, 4 black ones, 4 red ones. I mean, it was everybody.
Somebody start watching you up close
Yeah.
and following your steps. And that's
Yeah.
how it always is. As you
Sure.
climbing on the ladder,
Yeah.
and you're not paying attention about this because you're focused on your craft and your you know, what are you creating, what are you building.
Right.
People around you exactly start watching you and following and getting up close. So
Right.
I hear those stories.
Yeah. So it was, so from that point on, I decided, okay, there's too many people doing it. There's too many people doing the same thing. So that's when I decided I need to do something completely different, color-wise or combination-wise. So that was the year that I mentioned that silvery blue car. I built a kind of a silvery blue with a white linen interior, 67 convertible. Gorgeous car, super, super different than anybody had ever done. Took it to Scottsdale. The record sale that I had previous to that was $400,000. And so that car made a huge jump to $650,000. Sold for $650,000. And you know, as life would have it in the car world, lots of guys coming up to me going, man, that's a decent car, but I sure wouldn't have painted it that color, you know. But I knew that I had to separate somehow.
Yeah.
That was the first step as far as separating. The next year, I built a silvery green with kind of a butter-colored interior, completely different, you know, real, I called it the classy flare instead of the hot roddy flare. That car did 700.
Wow.
So it you know, the change that I made along the way really worked to my advantage, and still yet I'm doing cars and colors that other people have not done or aren't doing, and so that also has helped separate me from what everybody else is doing. It just trying to make good, conscientious business decisions along the way. So, but it's fun. It's been fun and challenging because no one can figure out what's next, which I enjoy a lot. You know.
Yeah, you mentioned those colors. I heard something like that before about Jeff Hayes colors exactly, and that's
right.
I see right now as you describing your approach and separating yourself, that you're looking outside the box. You're choosing colors. You're creating colors which nobody else would think or be take the risk. Exactly.
Right. And that was the thing initially that, you know, looking back at, anybody can say, well, he took this chance and it worked, and so now we're all going to do it. But to be the first one to do it and having that big question mark in your head, okay, I got a year of my life in this car, and you know, several $100,000. Is this going to work? So it's big risk, but. Yeah.
And that's those steps which creating you as your name, separating you, of course, from everybody else. And you just, you're creating the true culture of resto mods for Corvettes.
Yes. And another thing I would say that had a lot to do with that was being a guy from the Midwest. You know, we're kind of a blue-collar state. Everybody works hard and kind of does the right thing and so on and so forth. You go to somewhere like Naples here where we're at, or Scottsdale, everything's different. You know, you have, rich people, fancy clothing, fancy attire, and some of those type things. So that had a big part to do with me trying to choose those colors, was that you'd go to Scottsdale and you'd see these people that are dressed to the nines with all the fancy clothing and watches and so on, and you realize that, you know, these people are about class and elegance. These people are used to having the best, and they want the best. That has been a really neat path for me also, because, you know, I try to stick with that classy flair on these cars now, and that's what those people have, you know, kind of been waiting on and looking for, I believe. So it's it's been a change that was probably one of the smarter ones that I've done along the way. Obviously could have went the other direction and not done well, but it did do well.
Yeah.
So it's been super beneficial now. So.
And right now, so you still are choosing both of them exactly, because that's what we're talking about, the recent Barret-Jackson. So the first one, that was right before I met you. That was the 2024.
Yes. Yeah.
Big month for you. Big
yeah.
year.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was and that was probably the most I would maybe say out of the box color combination that I've ever done. I mean, it was kind of a champagne colored 67 convertible Corvette with a off-white or a linen colored interior. You know, very much not 67 Corvette look. They never, you know, the GM never had a color combo like that as far as a mid-year Corvette goes. You know, the new Corvettes don't have colors like that. Now, you know, some of the fancier brands of cars do, but trying to pull that elegant flair into a mid-year Corvette was the whole approach to doing it, and it just simply worked. I mean, I would be surprised if that record, I mean, with the commission, that guy wrote a check for $1.1 million. Wow. So I would venture to say that that'll probably never be broken. I don't know.
And we got to say that was convertible again. So
right.
You're choosing the convertible
yeah.
build.
Right. Yep. 67 convertible, which, you know, with experience and, you know, that's the thing is, I mean, it took 20 years to get here, and it's been a long journey, and,
yes.
and a lot of it has went the right way for me. Not all of it, but a lot of it.
Oh, there's,
so,
you know, in every single journey, there are ups and downs, but you just following your path, you trust
right.
in your guts, how you
yeah.
said,
yeah.
and just you creating.
Yep.
And and then we have this year, exactly, another
right.
one.
Yes, yeah, this year I came up with a color combo with this Ferrari Bianca Fuji Pearl White, and that was from a car that I saw here in Naples, and I wanted to, once again, I felt like, you know, the competition's probably catching on out at Barrett, so I got to do something different, and I came up with the idea that the 67 convertible is by far the most desired, you know, convertible amongst the guys that can write a check for this kind of money. 63 split window will always be the iconic coupe in my opinion. So I thought, well, if I could build an identical pair, you know, build the best coupe, the best convertible, and make them identical. Don't sell them together, sell them back to back, but present them together and give somebody the opportunity to buy them. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, great. Had a lot of interest out there in both cars. I would say, honestly, a lot of separated interest. Did not really hear too many people or anyone say, I'm going to buy them both. Rick Hendricks, the NASCAR guy, and he to me, he's been kind of an icon in the car world. I mean, he's owns several NASCAR teams and probably the biggest Corvette collection in the U.S., been to his museums, been to his car shows and stuff. He was there. He's bought a couple cars several years ago from me, and I got to know him. He's an extremely nice guy, and he came, I believe it was Thursday, he came to the auction, and I saw him for the first time, and he came up to the cars, and we talked about the cars, and then the next day on Friday, he came back around the cars, looked them over again. And he made the comment to me then. He said, no one's going to steal this 63. So I kind of had in the back of my head that he was very much interested in the 63, but still no mention whatsoever of the pair. Saturday, which is the day of the sale, and is you know, the most stress you could just probably ever put on yourself. I mean, the cars have never failed to start. They've never had a problem. Nothing has ever went wrong with these two cars, but you're just have that in the back of your head as a lifelong car guy that, oh, what if? So it went absolutely picture perfect, but in the staging lanes, you know, there were several people looking at the cars, several people saying they were going to buy the cars. Still no mention of anybody buying the pair. So I'm thinking, that's probably off the table. And as it turned out, Rick Hendricks bought both cars. They're both going to his museum. I talked with him after the sale of the cars, and he said, these are going in my museum and probably never be sold.
Spectacular.
So for, you know, as a person from the Midwest that feels real fortunate to have had the run at these cars that I've had, the money's fine. Once again, it never was about that for me, but the fact that the guy with the biggest Corvette collection probably in the U.S. thought enough of both of those cars to step up and pay a large number.
There's a piece of automotive art.
Yeah.
And that's exactly moment. That's you know, you creating your story right now.
Right.
You're creating your name, your story.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's the whole thing has just been, if you know, I'm 61 years old. If it ended today, I would
just
say
a number. We're not talking about this. Time flies for me too. I don't care. You know.
Yep. You get up every day and go hard. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Catching whatever you can because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
That's right.
But doing something what you love and then hearing the good word and people around appreciate your craft and the time and hard work which you put and the risk which you took. And on the end of the day, when this paying off, that's something special.
Yes, it definitely is, and it's, you know, it's one of those things. If you'd have planned on it or tried, or you know, you just things like this you can't create. You follow the path and you do what you think is right, and it's been phenomenal to me for sure.
It's quite right.
Yeah,
it's quite right.
Yeah.
So. Any plans for the future? You want to share some sneaky peek?
I honestly, I really don't know at this point.
I gotta invite you to Europe. Have you been in Europe?
No,
you haven't
have
been
not
in
been
Poland.
No.
Yeah, we're gonna spread. We will spread your name there more. I mean, yes, Holland, UK, you're there already. Canada too.
Yeah.
Any? Are you getting? Because that's the story. The moment when I met you. And it's again, I'm a car guy. I'm still learning. I'm learning every day.
Sure.
So it's nothing new. We are learning every day something.
Yes.
With this, what kind of access we have to internet, YouTube, social media, are we like this or not? We don't need to. I mean, I'm not really crazy for social media, but that's the area exactly where you can meet people from around the world and exactly chat with them. I'm meeting a lot of people on different car shows, and that's how we're keeping in touch sometimes. We're sending messages over social media. But it's again, I would like to spread more about you to your European market, European car enthusiasts. And I think that's something cool. Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. It's
you travel in Europe a little bit.
I've not been to Europe. My wife's been there a couple times, and we definitely have plans to go over and travel some.
Yeah, we have definitely some Corvette lovers there.
Yes.
In Europe.
Yep. Yeah, that would be. Definitely time to experience some of those things.
And here the same, I see. It's again, before I met you, I didn't hear the name. Yes, step by step, I got a little bit more knowledgeable about you, your story, and what you're creating. But you going to car shows and Corvette community is huge in the United States. So let's start with that.
Oh yeah.
And people just know you, they love what you're creating.
Right. Yeah, and that's honestly one of the probably I would say the tougher things for me. You know, it was like, okay, I'm just a passionate car guy. I'm not used to attention and so on, but I've done enough stuff on TV with cars and so on and so forth now that I'm starting to get recognized.
Yes.
That's been a whole new learning curve, trying to figure out how to handle that without offending somebody, but you know, it's certainly not something you got into it for. You know,
I like also how you approach, and I saw this that as you joining the Barret-Jackson auction, you like to be around and exactly how you mentioned before, educate people, educate whatever you created and why and how.
Right.
I like this.
Yeah. I've one of the first people that educated me on that needed to be done was I've had numerous people over the years tell me I'm not really a Corvette guy. I've never been what I would consider to be a Corvette guy, but I love your car. I just love this car. And then so you try to explain some of the things you've done to make it not as much like a Corvette, or you know, put a different spin to it. And then, you know, people have just been so complimentary of, you know, well, you did this year, and you did, you know, it's become interesting to me that you meet someone at Scottsdale and they can tell you what your last 5 cars were. Then you know people are really starting to pay attention.
Expect, yes.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. They're following you, and it's again, it's the same with me. I never. I kind of, you sharing something, and then you just, I don't know, or hope is the good word here, but you don't know with one word you can change somebody else's approach or a vision or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're meeting sometimes guys with the exotic cars, and you're in a hot rod, and they see something what could inspire them.
Sure.
That's what I'm learning also, going from the car show to car show. I'm not attending many car shows, but definitely looking for some totally different car show to experience something different from here, from United States, and that's how I ended up in the race of gentlemen in Wildwood, New Jersey, when they were racing vintage cars and motorcycles on the beach. Then I was in Austin, Texas, also pretty nice large car show, but the scene is surrounded around with barns and speed shops.
Oh yeah,
that's again a different experience, and that's what I'm, you know, moving to Indiana, moving to Kentucky. I would like to see, and definitely this year on my bucket list is to attend one of the Good Guys car show, which I hear so much about, and they're all over United States. So
there's another one that's become real big that's attainable for you is there's a guy named Bobby Alloway that's a builder in Knoxville area of Tennessee, and he has a car show now called the Triple Crown.
All right.
I believe last year was probably the first year for it, but he started this Triple Crown thing. But last year was really, I mean, Dave Kindig came and brought cars, and all the Troy Trepanier and a lot of Mike Goldman and Talbert Goldman, a lot of the big name builders from, you know, probably this half of the United States that brought cars to go to his show. And it's been I talked to Bobby at Scottsdale at Barret-Jackson, and he's like, you really need to come to our show. You need to. It's towards the fall, but that would be a really good one for you to try to go to.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it in my calendar.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a pleasure.
Peter,
True honor.
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time.